We finally have news updates and I'm ready to share them all with you. So I hope you're ready, ladies and gentlemen, because it's Matt time! Welcome back to the Generation Millennium, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Jeffro Madness, and this is our third episode for the Pokemon podcast here. And as I said earlier at the start, we have news! That's surprising. Although August has been a rather explosive month this year for, well, the 25th anniversary of Pokemon, which has been a drought so far, even though we had Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, Legends Arceus announced earlier in the year. There really hasn't been any news updates for that. So surprisingly today, it was announced that this upcoming Wednesday, August 18th, at 6 a.m. Pacific time for me, 9 a.m. if you're on the East Coast and other locations, that we'll be getting a 28-minute Pokemon Presents, which will give us updated details for Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, as well as Legends Arceus games that will be coming out on November 19th for Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl of this year. And for Legends Arceus, I don't believe we have an actual release date yet, but just early 2022 as far as last time I checked. But also recently, Pokemon Unite recently came out, which has been exploding on popularity, and probably will stay that way for the next couple of months, as that's how it usually stands for new games. Although speaking of the word new Pokemon Snap also got a DLC update, which is surprising. And for anyone who's paying attention to the P25 music albums, those have also received recent updates in the past week or so. And Sword and Shield also has been having their own updates, being the last promo raid that took place just last weekend. The Wild Area Promodens were updated to visualize a traditional Japanese summer, I suppose, considering that the Pokemon that were in there encased ice cream for the Vanillite line, Goldeen for the koi fish thing for Japanese, and then beetles and cicadas, so Heracross, Pinsir, and Nincada were also showcased there. And also the showcase of having an electric fan going on to chill the summer breeze. Fan Rotom was also in that promo raid, so quite a few odd selections, but pretty decent promo raid. Not the best we wanted, considering the 2% shiny was for Vanillux. And let me tell you, taking down a Vanillux when it has weak armor and you have two useless NPCs at your side, not a very fun time. But that's just my experience because I was doing a solo, trying to beast ball the guy. And speaking of beast balls, for anyone who's been paying attention to any videos or on my Discord updates, my beast ball challenge is well underway, and now that it's in August, surprisingly, I'm now 66 of the way done with the beast ball challenge. So if I keep with this pace I'm at, if I don't get too distracted when Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl release, I'll probably be done with that by the end of the year. Hopefully, if RNG is in my favor. As of the recording of this, I'm on my Nintendo Switch. I'm currently running through 2 different Twitch streamers, which is where I get all my raids from. So hopefully I'll get some nice catchers there, going through some ghost types and dark types at the moment. But in terms of other news, well, we were supposed to get some mystery gift Pokemon events as well. There's a Korean Porygon Z event that was supposed to release like a couple weeks ago, but they've been delaying that, so rest in peace on that, maybe. But another event Pokemon were supposed to be receiving was for a Gigantamax Colossal, which was based off of Wolf Glick's G-Max Colossal that he used in the Player Cups 2 competition that took place a while back. I think we're getting to Player Cups 4 or 5 right now. So those competitions have been really getting very popular. And G-Max Colossal has also been very popular in those competitions, probably the most used G-Max Pokemon as far as I've seen. So that's a nice way to go about things. In terms of updated news, that's about all I have. Although again, getting updates for Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl is probably one of the biggest things I'm looking for because, well, those games are the remakes of the original Diamond and Pearl, and going back to Sinnoh is definitely going to be a fun time. Only thing I'm not looking forward to is if they bring back the HM feature, because that's been absent since Gen 7. So hopefully that's absent. I'm curious if they're going to reinstate TMs as they originally were, or they're going to keep the current TM system, which is their infinite use instead of one-time use, although TRs have been replacing the usable TM feature, which is used in Sword and Shield right now, so maybe they'll bring those back in Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. But they said they'll be remaking those games with all of the modern-day conveniences, which would include things like hyper training, all the breeding mechanics, probably naturements will be returning as well. So I don't think we'll have to worry on that front, although we're probably really worried about the fact that if they'll bring back things like the National Pokédex. They're being made by the same company that made Pokemon Home, Ilka, so the possibility of compatibility between those two games is probably going to be, I mean, if it's not absolute, then there's something wrong there. But our major concern is if they're going to be compatible with Sword and Shield, and then you can also trade between the two games or even battle between Sword and Shield, Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, the two different games. That's one of our major concerns. So hopefully those be so many different questions and worries. Hopefully they'll all be addressed in the 28 minutes presents on that'll come this Wednesday. I'll probably be asleep at that time because I don't know anyone who wakes up at 6 a.m. to watch a 28-minute presentation. If it was an hour, then maybe. But the last time I woke up that early, I was a bit disappointed. And then the fact they did 2 Pokemon Presents in a row one time, and the second one they released the week after was all about Pokemon Unite. I skipped that one, thankfully. But beyond that, speaking of bringing back the National Dex, that's actually going to be the main focus of our podcast today, because with Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl coming out and the whole Dexit meme running around the internet, many fans, myself included, are really concerned about the National Dex. And for those of you who don't understand what the National Dex entails, that is the entire Pokedex from Generations 1 all the way up to Generation 8. And as of right now, as of the recording of this podcast episode, we have 898 Pokemon species in the entire game franchise, which you may think is a lot. However, that is not including alternate variations of those 898 Pokemon, such as gender differences, form variations, and regional variants. And if you were to include all of those into the number, then oh boy, it easily surpasses 1,000, probably even 1,200, I think. I have not counted because there are just so many different form variations, and trying to count them all individually is just nuts. Because just to list them, you have things such as the Cap Pikachus, the different versions of Unknown, the different forms of Deoxys, Wormadam, Shellos, Gastrodon, Basculin, Rotom, Deerling, Sawsbuck, Tornadus, Thundurus, Landorus, Greninja, Vivillon, Flabébé and its evolutions, Minior, Lycanroc, Toxtricity, Alcremie with its different flavors. Even the mythical legendary Zarude has an alternate form as well, or Oricorio from Gen 7 has its own forms. Even Zygarde from Gen 6 has different forms as well, introduced in Alola. There's so many Pokemon with different forms, and just imagine getting all of those Pokemon and their shiny variants as well. Oh yes, I forgot to including shiny variations into the mix. Well, they don't technically count as alternate forms of any kind, but if you were to use Pokemon Home to store your entire living dex, which the term living dex represents meaning having one copy of every Pokemon stored into your file. Meaning you would have a Bulbasaur, one Bulbasaur, one Ivysaur, one Venusaur, one Charmander, one Charmeleon, one Charizard, and so on. You have one copy of every single Pokemon's form in every section of its evolutionary line. So to have a complete living dex in Home, you would have one of every Pokemon, just and organize them easily by their national dex number makes it simple enough. But then you'd have to dedicate other boxes in Pokemon Home to the other form variations, gender differences, and regional variants. Which means that if you were to do things by the book, you would have to also do Alolan and Galar forms of past Pokemon, meaning like Galarian Weezing, or Alolan Vulpix, Alolan Ninetales, Alolan Exeggutor. There are just so many different Pokemon, so many form variations. And on top of that, to make things even worse, if you're a masochistic collector like myself, then you may also want to try collecting as many Pokemon as you can from the different generations or games that they were released in. Because, oh boy, if you're trying to do this from scratch, you're going to be going through a lot of money. So for someone like me who's been playing these games since they first released, and I still have the physical cartridges for them for the Game Boy Advance, Nintendo DS, and 3DS, for me, it's easy. But if you're a newcomer to the franchise and you're just started on Nintendo Switch and you were looking backwards into the older games, it's going to be a real nightmare because for Generation 1 Kanto, we have 3 games for that so far. Red, Blue, Yellow, which is currently available for the Virtual Console and 3DS. Then you have Fire Red Leaf Green for the Game Boy Advance. And then Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee on the Switch. 3 Kanto games. So imagine trying to get the complete Pokédex, 251 Pokemon, from all 3 of those games stored in Pokemon Home. And then you have the Johto region games of Gold, Silver, Crystal, also on the Virtual Console and the 3DS. And then you have their remakes, Heart Gold, Soul Silver on Nintendo DS. Hoenn has Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald on the Game Boy Advance. And then Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire on a 3DS. And then you have Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum on a Nintendo DS. And the upcoming Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl going to also be released on the Switch. So do you have 2 Sinnoh games to think about there. And while they have not been remade, there are 2 Gen 5 Unova games. Black and White, Black 2 and White 2. Although if you're just trying to complete getting Pokemon from the Unova region itself, then you can use either one of those 2 sets of games, so it doesn't matter which one. And then you have Gen 6, Pokemon X and Y. And while Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire did come out in Gen 6 as well, I already mentioned that as part of the Hoenn game, so no need to mention that one, I guess. Then Gen 7 also has 2 Alola games, Sun and Moon, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, although if you were to play any Gen 7 game, I would recommend getting Ultra game since it has extended Pokédex that the first Sun and Moon don't have. Although if you want to just play the games in terms of their story, people have voted that Sun and Moon have a better storyline than the Ultra games do. Although the Ultra games have so many better life improvements, mechanics, and features and Pokemon and whatnot, so I guess that's a bit of a plus. And then finally we have Sword and Shield on Generation 8, Galar, to round out the total. And surprisingly, the numbers of Pokemon for the National Dex and the Pokemon that are added in each generation is also pretty... I don't know how they come up with these numbers. But for the first generation, we have 151 for the Generation 1 Pokemon. Gen 2 Johto added 100 Pokemon to that total, bringing us to 251 Pokemon. Hoenn brought in 135 more Pokemon, bringing the national total to 386. Sinnoh introduced 107 Pokemon, bringing the national to 493. Unova currently holds the largest record for 156 Pokemon added, to bring the national dex total to an impressive 649. And then we were devastated when Kalos came around Gen 6, added a measly 72 Pokemon, bringing the national dex up to 721. And then Alola was a raised eyebrow, with a grand total of 86 Pokemon, including Ultra Beasts and any new additions they added in. Brush brought the national dex up to, 807 Pokemon. And then when Pokemon Go came out, 2 new Pokemon were added in there, exclusive from Pokemon Go, Melton and Melmetal. So that brought the national dex total up to 809. And if you look at Pokemon Home, Melton and Melmetal are actually listed as an unknown region, which I guess makes sense considering Pokemon Go is based in real life, and I guess you can't place the entire Earth as a region, which is why they just listed as unknown. And then finally, as of right now, recording this podcast and current releases we have, Galar has introduced 89 Pokemon, which brings us up to the total 898, which once again does not include gender differences, form variations, and regional variants. Although if you want to include more Pokemon you can get Pokemon from, there are just so many spin-off games you can get other Pokemon from, which is actually required for Generation 3 since those games miss a lot of Johto Pokemon. Generation 3 consists of Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, Fire Red, and Leaf Green for the Game Boy Advance. But those only cover the Hoenn and Kanto Pokemon, and while they do bring in some Johto Pokemon, you are missing a lot of Johto Pokemon. And while you can get them between the games, some of them, the effort is just not worth it because you have to do a lot of a lot of resetting games and then training Pokemon around. It's just so not worth the time and effort. So that's where the spin-off games come into play. Getting Pokemon Colosseum and Pokemon XY Gale Darkness on the GameCube is how you gain access to these Johto Pokemon, which includes the Johto starters and the Johto legendaries, as well as a good chunk of other Johto Pokemon. Which is surprising considering Generation 3 was the first generation of Pokemon that actually completed the entire national dex. Mythicals, Mew, Celebi, Jirachi, and Deoxys not included in that total because, as our title says, Mythicals are mythical. And you're not really supposed to get them under normal circumstances. Because Mew was a Japanese event exclusive at that time. Jirachi could be obtained by the Pokemon Colosseum bonus disc that you got if you pre-ordered the game. But that meant you were still missing Deoxys and Celebi. Celebi could be obtained if you had the Japanese Pokemon Colosseum bonus disc, that's how they got it. And Deoxys, like Mew, was an event exclusive. So the only way you can get it nowadays is if you got a Game Shark or something to hack your cartridges. In which I technically did have a Game Shark when I was younger. I got it as a Christmas present. So I used it to get to Faraway Island and Birth Island, where Mew and Deoxys are respectively, so I got to experience those events. Which was pretty cool, although I never transferred them upward because technically they're not supposed to be obtainable in America, so I kind of abandoned them in my older games, just to be safe so I don't get caught by Pokemon Home in their little space pirating updates. Because there's nothing worse than going through all that effort of playing through your Pokemon accounts and all of a sudden your account gets banned. So keep that in mind for any of you out there who has possibly hacked Pokemon out there. And believe me, you can tell when a Pokemon's hacked when its IVs or maxed out or has marks and possibly Pokerus. Maybe call them Master Ball. I mean, it's not guaranteed because RNG is strange and sometimes you may get a Pokemon with good stats, but usually it's not very likely. So just keep those eyes out and eyes peeled. And then 4th generation came around, and the GTS was released, the Global Trade Station, which meant you can now trade Pokemon around the world, literally, on Nintendo DS, first introduced in Diamond and Pearl, which is another feature that many fans for Brilliant Diamond and Shiny Pearl are worried about, because as of right now, the GTS, it's on the mobile version of Pokemon Home. Pokemon Home has 2 versions, for those of you unaware, on Nintendo Switch, which allows you to physically organize your Pokemon into boxes however you like. And then the mobile app is how you do the online trading functionality for Wonder Trades, trading with friends, or just the Global Trade Station itself. However, the GTS originated from the Sinnoh games Diamond and Pearl as an actual in-game feature. And it has been an in-game feature ever since then, up to Gen 7. But then for some reason, when Sun and Shield came out, they removed the GTS functionality and they put it into Pokemon Home instead. For some reason. And since the GTS wasn't actually a physical building in the original Diamond and Pearl, that's another feature that we're concerned about for the remake. So let's hope we get some information on that in the upcoming Pokemon Presents. But if you're wondering why go through all this trouble of completing a Pokédex, well, in Generation 5's Black 2 and White 2, a new incentive was brought into the game known as the Shiny Charm. This is a key item that when you talk to the professor with a completed national dex, you get this Shiny Charm key item, which increases the chance of you encountering shiny Pokemon, and that's been a staple item for completing your Pokédex ever since then. So that's a pretty nice incentive for us collectors out there. And speaking of which, for those of you who get Pokemon Home and you complete the National Dex itself, you also get rewarded with a special Magearna. This is a Gen 7 Mythical, in which if you get the Gen 7 original version, I don't know what the forms of Magearna are, but it's a different colored Pokeball, so that's a nice bonus. Getting an exclusive Mythical Pokemon form as a prize. And I'm sorry for the long pause there, but well, just collecting the National Dex, that's just one of the main draws of Pokemon, because it's just one of the 3 things you can do in Pokemon. You can collect, you can trade, you can battle. There are just so many things you can do in Pokemon, but those are the 3 main categories of how you go about playing the game. And I am a major collector, and as you can probably tell from the way I'm talking, even as we speak, I am still on the lookout for any and all Pokemon, mostly mythical Pokemon, to collect them from their original events, because there's been so many events released over the years, mostly from Japan that is. So just trying to collect them all is just another way of going about it, because Mew, the original Gen 1 mythical, you can get it from the Virtual Console if you know how to do that. So you just need to get the right trainer ID and trainer name in order to transfer it upward. But the Mew has been released so many times over the years. It's been missed in Gen 2, and then, as I said, there's the Faraway Island event in Gen 3. In Gen 4, you can get it from Pokemon Ranch, which was a Wii exclusive channel that you can buy from the eShop, which is no longer available right now, but that was another way you can get Mew. There was the 20th anniversary event that was released back in Gen 6. And I believe if you got Pokemon Bank when it first released, I think they gave a Mew out that time, or was it Celebi, one of those two. And then if you got the Pokeball Plus application, when Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee came out, they also gave you a free downloadable Mew you could send to those games as well. Oh yeah, that reminds me, speaking of Pokeball Plus, and Pokemon Go related news, for any of you who still play Pokemon Go, well, we're getting a community day just coming up tomorrow as of the recording of this podcast episode. Pokemon Go is getting updated to host another community day for Eevee. Eevee is returning, which means any of you who missed out on getting shiny Eevee, like I did, can now get another chance at it. Which is the main reason why I still play Pokemon Go, is mostly just to collect Kanto shiny Pokemon so I can transfer them to my Let's Go save files, because I want to have a complete living dex of shiny Pokemon in my Let's Go save file. And Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee has a 5% encounter rate in the wild, so it's pretty rare. So that's one type of Pokemon I am most certainly not looking forward to, just trying to shiny hunt the old-fashioned way of those games, because of how low its encounter rate is, not to mention its capture rate is also pretty low, which makes it annoying to catch and hunt. So getting it through Pokemon Home, through Pokemon Go is going to make not only, well, grinding it for Eevee candies easier, but also just getting shiny Pokemon itself. So then I already have a shiny Eevee. Surprisingly, I got one from the Pokemon Kanto tour earlier on this year in February. So I covered that for the Eevee line, but I still need 3 more shiny Eevees to transfer to my Let's Go game, so I can get evolutions of Vaporeon, Jolteon, and Flareon added there as well. Like I said, I also need to transfer just regular Eevees into Let's Go, so I can grind those for Eevee candy, because anyone who's played Let's Go games knows how annoying it is to grind for candy in those games, especially species Pokemon-related candies. And speaking of the word Pikachu, I also found out something interesting earlier. So I mentioned how the Cap Pikachus, these are just Pikachu wearing different versions of Ash's hat from the anime. So you have the original Cap Pikachu, a Hoenn Cap, Sinnoh Cap, Unova Cap, Kalos Cap, Alola Cap, and a Cap from Pokemon I Choose You movie. This is known as the Partner Cap Pikachu. And in Generation 8 introduced the World Cap Pikachu. This is one that's used in the Pokemon Journeys anime. So there are currently a total of 8 different Cat Pikachus, if I'm counting correctly. But the partner Cat Pikachu was released as a QR code event in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon in Generation 7. But surprisingly, this Cat Pikachu can be shiny hunted. It wasn't originally supposed to be shiny hunted. All of these Cat Pikachu are shiny locked. But surprisingly, I guess they just didn't code it right, and you can technically get partner Pikachu shiny. It doesn't look any different from its normal form, but it still appears in battle with sparkles. And since it hasn't been banned, it's totally legal to get and use. So there's a nice little incentive to do some shiny hunting in the Gen 7 games. And speaking of shiny hunting, as I said earlier, I'm still going through my Beast Ball challenge, and I've been getting some nice catches. One of my favorites I've gotten recently is Dracovish, which rounds out the Galar fossils I was hunting for, because for some reason I've been joining in Pokemon Twitch streams, in which anytime someone hosted Dracovish, I hopped in, but it just refused to get caught in the Beast Ball. So the fact that I finally managed to close that shiny hunt is a sweet relief. And just last night, I also caught Chansey in the Beast Ball, which has also been an annoying catch, because just like its original counterpart from the Kanto Safari Zone, I threw one ball, it breaks out without even shaking immediately, like 90% of the time. So the fact that I finally caught Chansey was a nice relief, meaning I just had to go after Blissey now. Among other Pokemon, I also finished off the Bagon line by getting Shelgon caught. But a lot of Pokemon I also caught in Beast Balls this past week have also been a lot of Isle of Armor Pokemon, such as Miltank, Tentacool line, finishing off the Whismur line, finishing off the Amoonguss line, Lilligant, Lurantis. I even have both forms of Toxel and Toxtricity now, which is very nice. And again, these are all Pokemon I caught in Beast Balls, which is a Pokemon with the lowest capture rate for those you're unaware, so I usually have to go through a lot of Beast Balls to catch these guys, and if I use up like 10 without catching anything, I usually just reset the game and just try again, so I don't end up wasting all my resources. But yeah, that's mostly what I've been up to, and that's essentially all the updates, with the National Next being one of the biggest things that we're looking forward to. And before I end today's podcast, I also want to add in a little bit of trivia from Pokemon Sword and Shield for those of you who may have picked up the game recently and are having some trouble in the post-game. And by trouble, I mean grinding out resources, because Arceus only knows we need resources when playing through Pokemon, like experience candy, money, watts, battle points. These are all resources we need in abundance, because ever since Gen 6, money has been easy to obtain, but also easily spent, especially if you're playing a female avatar and you want to get all the clothing items. You'll need to spend well over, I think, like 12 million Pokédollars. Which is also a problem because the maximum amount of money is 9,999,999. So you'll have to get close to your maxed out money, spend most of it, get more money if you want to buy all the clothing items. But then how do you get so much money? Well, the first way is to get a Gigantamax Meowth and use it to Gigantamax whenever you're in battle with another player. And then in the post game, the best place to do this will be Winden Stadium. But then how do you get a Gigantamax Meowth? Unfortunately, there is only 3 ways to get it, and unfortunately 2 of those methods are no longer available. The first one of which was a special promo event you can get when the game first released back in 2019. If you went to Mystery Gift before January, I think it ended around like January 8th or something of 2020. But essentially, you just got a Cherish Ball Meowth that gave you access to its Gigantamax Factor right then and there. So that's one way you could have gotten it. A second of which was eventually, I believe it was the month before the Isle of Armor released, before the whole Gigantamax Festival promo event was going on. For 3 weeks straight, they did 3 special Gigantamax events. First for Pikachu, then Eevee, and finally rounding off the Gigantamax Meowth. Then you could capture all those Gigantamax Pokemon in any ball you wanted. And then a couple months ago, they also released the Meowth Festival events, which gave you access to catching not only Alolan Meowth, but also Cantonian Meowth, regular and Gmax forms. But those were all promotional events, so the only way you can get a Gmax Meowth now is if you went to the Turffield Gym, and there's an NPC there who will trade you a Kanto Meowth for a Galarian Meowth, which can be found just outside Turffield on Route 4, so that's easy enough. And then once you have that Kanto Meowth that they traded you, all you need to do is take it to the Master Dojo on Isle of Armor, give it Max Soup, and there you go, Gmax Meowth. You can also just trade and transfer in Meowths from past games as well if you have access to those resources. But I'm going under the assumption that you do not have access to the past 7 generations of Pokemon like I do. So this is just how you do it if you have access to just a single copy of Pokemon. And then make sure that Gmax Meowth of yours has maxed out attack stat because you want to have high attack. And then you want to give it the strongest physical attack move you can learn. And then make sure that it's either Meowth or another Pokemon you'll be using in battle is holding Amulet Coin or Lucky Instance items because that doubles the amount of money you earn from battle. And then during that battle, when you Gigantamax Meowth and you use it, and use its Gmax attack, Gmax Gold Rush, you have to make sure you use Gold Rush 3 times. And after you end the battle, you'll pick up your regular earnings of money from the Wyndham Stadium battles. I think it's like somewhere like 20,000 Pokédollars. But you'll also gain 99,999 Pokédollars from using the Gmax Gold Rush 3 times total. So if you're going through Wyndham Stadium, all 3 battles, you will earn for yourself somewhere in the neighborhood of, let's go around 360,000 Pokédollars per run. Which is not bad, but that's kind of slow. There's a much faster way to earn money. And this is using luxury balls. I'm not sure when the price of these items changed, but I think in Gen 7 they were costing like 300 Pokédollars. But then for some reason, Sword and Shield, the price multiplied by 10, now they sell for 3,000. Although if you try to sell them, you'll get $1,500 back profit. But that's the thing, you can get luxury balls and sell them for profit. So how do you do that? Well, this is where Watts come in. This is the in-game currency for the wild area. You obtain Watts here by using the Raiden exploit, which you can probably look up on somewhere else, but to summarize it, you first need to throw a wishing piece into any Pokemon den. It doesn't matter what kind of den spawns. And then you interact with the den, you hit invite others, and then once you see the timer running down, you hit the home button on your controller, go to Nintendo settings, scroll all the way down to the final option, then you move over to date and time. You make sure that your date and time synchronization is turned off. And then you go to change the date. You move forward 1 day. So say you're trying to do it today, August 13th. You move the date forward to August 14th. Then you hit OK. Hit the home button to go back to the home menu, re-enter the game software, then cancel out of the raid den. And once you do, the game will recognize that the game has to move forward by 1 day. So when you interact with the den again, you'll earn Watts. And then you'll see a new Pokemon has been rolled in the raid den. If you don't care about the raid den part, then you don't really care about the Pokemon, but what you care about is the Watts. And you really have to do this in the post game because you earn 2,000 Watts for each roll. And then if you find a Watt trader in the wild area, or if you go to that special Watt trader in the Crown Tundra on the Snow Point slope, then you can look for luxury balls which sell for 100 Watts each. So if you use those 2,000 Watts you just earned for 100, that gets you 20 luxury balls, in which if you were to sell those 20 luxury balls, that would earn you 30,000 Pokédollars profit right there. Which is not bad, meaning that if you want to max out, well, I mean, you don't have to max out, but roughly, let's put it this way, if you were to obtain 667 luxury balls and sell them, you would earn roughly 1 million Pokédollars profit right there. So the luxury ball method with Watts is definitely the way to go to grind out for money. And then using the Raiden exploit to grind out for Watts, it's a slow method, but it's definitely one that works. However, if you've been going around the wild area participating in lots of promo dens, or if you've been doing a lot of raid dens in the Isle of Armor, you should be grinding lots of Armorite ore, which is good because then you can go to the training lowlands and on the Isle of Armor, talk to the digging paw who's standing outside the warm-up tunnel, and for every 7 Armorite ore you give him, he will allow you to dig for watts, and he gives you tons of watts. And then even more so, if he gets excited and goes to overdrive for digging for watts, he will dig up watts by 5,000s per run. So depending on how lucky you are with RNG, you can easily grind up maybe like 50,000 to hundreds of thousands of watts from him. Then you can just sell those watts off. In order to earn that 1 million Pokédollars, I think for watts you'll need to grind up at least 66,000 watts or so, which is a little over a month's worth of day skipping if you want to do the raid exploit method. So by using these different versions, you can easily grind out for watts and money. So that's definitely a way you can earn extra resources there. If you're looking for experience candy grinding, unfortunately, this is something that's going to require 2 Nintendo Switches. First off, you need your first Nintendo Switch, which is your main profile that you want to get your candy and resources on. And then you'll need a second Nintendo Switch with a file that's also beating the game. And then you'll need to go to the den that has Shedinja as its rare beam. For those of you unaware, raid dens in the wild area have 2 different versions. A common den, which is represented by the red beam coming out of the dens. And then there's the rare beams dens, represented by a bright purplish pinkish light. So you need to fly to Bridgefield in the wild area, and if you turn your camera a little bit to the right and go straight forward, you'll find a den here. This one has bug-type Pokemon in it, so you'll know you have the right one. And you'll need to throw a wishing piece in here, and you'll have to set your game exactly right. The best way to do this is turn your text speed to slow, and then save your game. Interact with the den, and then hit both options to save your game. And then as it says your game is saving, don't turn off the power, you should see the den beam materialize. As soon as it spawns and you see the color, hit the home button screen. Especially if the beam you saw was a common red beam. What you want to do is make sure that you're on the home screen, then reset your software, and then re-enter the game. If you did this correctly, the game will not have saved, but because you saved your game ahead of time, you'll still be in front of that raid den. Then just retry this method over and over again and you see the purple beam coming out of the raid den. If you've done this correctly, then just set your Tixie back to fast and do the raid den exploits of just skipping ahead until you find Shedinja on that save file. Shedinja is special because it has its Wonder Guard ability, therefore I have to bring in a fast Pokemon that has a attack that deals super effective damage to Shedinja, which has a ton of weaknesses: fire, rock, flying, dark, ghost. Just bring any Pokemon with those moves, it can take out Shedinja in one hit. And then when you defeat Shedinja, you will gain 3 large candies, 3 extra large experience candies, as well as 3 Dynamax candies. Then all you have to do is just keep resetting the game that has Shedinja on it, while letting the game that you're trying to grind out on just keep re-entering the den as you invite yourself to enter the den, and you can just grind out candies this way. It's time consuming, yes, and it does require you probably have a second Nintendo Switch at your disposal, or maybe a friend who lends you their Switch. But it's just the pretty much main method how you can grind out for candy on Sword and Shield. In which, if you're doing a lot of breeding and catching and just preparing for battles and whatnot, and you like Pokemon being level 100, this is just one of the best methods. Or you can, if you have access to Nintendo Switch Online, which is unfortunately it's a paid service, you can just jump in as many random raid dens as you possibly can find. This will mostly require you probably be friends with lots of other people on your Switch, or you're just lucky you somehow connect to someone's randomly held raid den. Then you can just accumulate candy that way. And finally, battle points. As of right now, there are a couple ways you can earn battle points in Sword and Shield. The first method is from the Battle Tower. The second method is from the Restrictive Sparring in the Isle of Armor, which you only get access to once you defeat Mustard for the final time. in the post-game of the wild area, you need to complete the Gigantamax Urshifu event first. And the last method is from Pokemon Home. You see, having a completed national dex is also important in Pokemon Home because the more Pokemon you store in Pokemon Home, the more home points you will accumulate. And then the more home points you have, you can convert them to battle points, and then you can transfer them to any game you have on any profile in Pokemon Home that you want. Like say you have a Pokemon Sword save file on your first main profile, you can transfer 50 battle points to that save file. Then you can go to another profile on a Pokemon Shield account, you can transfer 23 battle points over there. You can distribute them however you want. So it's a nice convenience. But that's kind of slow, so you probably just want to grind them yourself in-game. In restrictive sparring, while a nice method, again, it's called restrictive sparring, which means you can only use one type of Pokemon, meaning you need to have a very well-balanced team of different item stats, attack styles, movesets. It can be a bit annoying. So the best method is probably the battle tower, because each battle you win, you earn 2 battle points. So if you win 10 battles in a row, if you're on the maximum rank, they'll earn you 20 battle points. A bit slow, even with battle animations turned off, but it's still a method nonetheless. And the easiest way to grind through the battle tower is to use a combination of Pokemon such as Dracovish, Zacian, and the third Pokemon doesn't really matter much. But Dracovish is overpowered because 1, you can give it the Jolly ability. 2, make sure it has max IVs in all its stats except special attack. 3, make sure it knows to attack Fish's Rend. 4, make sure that it has the Strong Jaws ability. 5, give it a Choice Scarf. Oh yeah, I think I mentioned max IVs in attack and speed. Make sure it's also EV trained in those 2 stats as well. Maxed out 252 EVs in each of those stats. The last 4 points can just go anywhere. As for Dracovish's other moves, doesn't really matter that much, but I usually like to go with Crunch, Ice Fang, and Psychic Fang, because they're all biting moves, because Strong Jaw ability increases the power of any biting moves, which all of those moves are all counted as biting moves. And Fish's Rend is an attack that deals double the damage if the Pokemon who's using Fish's Rend moves before the opponent. And also, Fish's Rend is a water type attack, so there's the same type attack bonus since Dracovish is a water dragon type. So with all those factors going in there, Dracovish, if it's dealing effective damage on a Pokemon who does not have a high defense stat, can usually just one-hit KO most opponents in the battle tower. Especially after the DLC in which they did not update the battle tower with any Isle of Armor or Crown Tundra Pokemon, will make Dracovish sweeping pretty easy. And if the opponent brings in a Pokemon like another Dragon type that can counter Dracovish, or maybe another Water type, you can then switch out to your third Pokemon, maybe like a Rillaboom or something, to counter that Grass type. Or to bring in a Dragon type, there's a very good chance, most of the time, like 95% of the time, that Pokemon's going to say Dragon move on your Dracovish. Swap into Zacian, and its Fairy type will make the Dragon type moves pointless, and then you can just counter with Play Rough on the following turn. That'll probably knock out that Dragon type in just one turn. Use these Pokemon, and I can guarantee you, like 9 out of 10 times, you will just breeze through the battle tower with very minimal effort, and you can just grind out those battle points. And well, I've shared all my thoughts as I can find right now. I'll probably release another update next week once we have all the Pokemon Presents news. I'll probably give updates over the week about how I'm doing my Beast Ball Challenge. It's tedious, but I'm enjoying getting my collection up to going. I'm about 67% of the way there. So there's always hope at the end of the tunnel. And I hope all of you enjoyed my Pokemon podcast. So if you like the content, please subscribe. And if you like to share my video podcast, I'd like that as well. But also, I have a Discord, I have a Patreon, so if you'd like to support me on those 2 platforms as well, I would love your support because of the fluctuating YouTube ads that I do not have access to at this time, but I probably hope I will eventually with your support. So I hope that all of you have enjoyed my content so far. So I'll see you all next time. I really need to work on an outro. Take care.